Chris, what is our fourth main topic today?
Fourth comes from Henry Ho. Hi, John and crew. Recently, Charlie Cox had spoken about whether or not the Netflix adaptation of Daredevil is the same person in the MCU. And he thinks no, they're different versions. Now, Marvel themselves haven't confirmed anything yet, but this seems like a strong sign. What could this mean for the backstories of Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk in the MCU? Thanks. Love your show.
All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Henry. Appreciate that. And yeah, look, this has been a really big topic of debate and discussion. And for some reason, it's gotten heated sometimes. Like I've given kind of a thought about what it could mean. And I've had people like angry at me, right? How dare you, John? Are you calling Vincent D'Onofrio a liar? Like, no, you just aren't reading everything Vincent D'Onofrio actually said. At any rate, the whole topic of, ever since Kingpin got brought in to Hawkeye, which was, I think everybody would acknowledge was kind of the biggest highlight of Hawkeye, was the appearance of Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. But the question has been, all right, and now obviously we have Charlie Cox in here too. Is it the same Wilson Fisk, and is it the same Charlie Cox Daredevil as from the Netflix series? On the one hand, you have the fact that, well, Fisk kind of physically is different and acts a bit different than he did in the Netflix series. I mean, he never had that kind of strength. He never had superpowers. He never did that. His backstory was apparently portrayed a little bit differently in Netflix shows this year. But on the other hand, you have Wilson Fisk saying, hey, in my mind, it's the same guy. In my mind, it's the same guy. Here and there, right? So then the same question got extended to Charlie Cox once he appeared in Spider-Man. It's like, okay, but is that the exact same guy? Is this literally the same character, the same guy with the same history and everything that we saw in the Netflix shows? Maybe yes, maybe no. And we won't know for sure until Kevin Feige comes out and makes a definitive statement, either in a movie or outside of a movie. But right now that hasn't happened. However, in the world of the multiverse, there are a lot of options. And Charlie Cox was recently at an event and he was asked straight up about it. It's like, is this the same thing? Is this going to be Daredevil season 4? Is this going to be the same Daredevil we've seen before? And Charlie Cox's statements, I think, were rather interesting. He said the following: I don't think it makes sense to pick up where we left off. I think in keeping with a lot of things in the MCU right now, whereas there's this kind of alternate reality kind of thing going on. So it's a good moment to have this, there's been a few years have passed, and now, I don't know, it's Daredevil, but maybe it's not quite. It's reimagined. So let's read that again, because I think there's a lot to unpack in here. I don't think it makes sense to pick up where we left off. I think in keeping with a lot of things in the MCU right now, where there's this kind of alternate reality kind of thing going on. So it's a good moment to have this, there's been a few years have passed, and now I don't know. It's Daredevil, but maybe it's not quite. It's reimagined. Just like a lot of other things that we have heard and seen, I think there are some things in here you could look at different ways. Like, for instance, when he says, and I'll bring this up one more time, when he says, I don't think it makes a lot of sense that we pick up where we left off. Well, I don't think that statement in and of itself tells us anything, because, yeah, maybe he's saying, yeah, I don't think it makes sense to say this is the same Daredevil. It's got to be a different thing. He could very well just be saying, hey, you know what? Years have passed since the events of Daredevil season 3. I just don't think we should pick up where we left off. You could look at it that way. The more interesting parts of the statement for me, though, are the parts where he's specifically talking about alternate realities now, and where he's saying, now that we're in an MCU with alternate realities, he says, it's Daredevil, but it's not quite. It's reimagined. I don't know. Again, I don't think there's anything 100% definitive here. I will say, though, I personally read what he's saying, and I lean towards the fact that I don't think this is going to end up being the exact same incarnation of Daredevil that we had. I think there's going to be a whole ton of similarities. I think there's going to be a lot of things similar, some things very different. But I think at the end of the day, this is as he pointed out, an alternate reality version of Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Again, we don't know for sure, but to me, that sounds like it is what he's saying. I don't know, Rob, they're playing everything really close to the vest right now. And I don't think there's that one damning magic bullet piece of evidence that absolutely confirms it one way or the other. I'm leaning one way after hearing Cox, but now that you've heard what he said, how do you feel about it?
Well, there's some weird shenanigans going on in the MCU that I think
I say.
There's some shenanigans here, and I want to offer J. Jonah Jameson, Ralph Boner, now Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, where we have characters. Ralph Boner is supposedly nobody, even though it's Evan Peters who was Quicksilver in the Fox universe. We brought back J. Jonah Jameson from Raimi's Spider-Verse. Now we have Wilson Fisk and Daredevil. You know, we have Matt Murdock from different iterations of these shows. So there's 4 characters that have all been classified as different things, and they've come from essentially different universes, and yet they've all been incorporated into the MCU in their various ways.
Right.
And I think that, I mean, Matt Murdock is clearly Matt Murdock. He is Daredevil, as we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home. I think in the Multiverse of Madness is going to give us the definitive answers we need, because
You're probably right.
It has to. I mean, it has to come out and say, and it's not just the character of Wilson Fisk and Daredevil, it's everything that came with them. Did Elektra come over? Did the Hand come over? Is Wilson Fisk's Criminal Empire the same as it was in the Charlie Cox series? And I think these things matter, because going forward, if they're going to bring these characters back repeatedly, we have to know who they are. And they might want to make a Daredevil, say they make a Daredevil movie. Do they have to bring back, if they bring back Elektra and they do Elektra Assassin or something, is it still the same actress? And if not, why not? And, you know, as fans, it's Marvel has set up their own continuity. We have come to expect over what's going to be, 28 films now, that they have an internal continuity that we've been able to follow. Well, since they've moved since the beginning of 2021, adding, I mean, everyone said that Evan Peters is just nobody, but that was a very specific, if he was a nobody, why do that in the first place? And I've said that there's shenanigans there from the beginning. I think we're going to find out something different about that, but we'll see. And I think they need to define it for us. And I think that's what Multiverse of Madness is going to do.
I mean, I think a key thing you brought up is, like, I think that J. Jonah Jameson is a great, I think if we're looking for one kind of pillar, that might be it. The same actor playing the same role, but that's not the J. Jonah Jameson that was in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It's the same, but it's different. And I kind of wonder, but then you bring up the Evan Peters situation, which is a different situation than what they did with J. Jonah, right?
At least that's what they said.
Right, at least that's what they said. I believe that, but you're right. It's at least what they said. So I still lean right now, until I see more evidence otherwise, I still lean right now that what we're getting with Charlie Cox here and Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be similar to the J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah. It's their Daredevil, that's Kingpin, but it's not the same one that you saw before. It's a little different, but I don't know. It could exactly be the same one. I don't know. Chris, you see this. Mm-hmm. I mean, the conversation continues about it. How have you been thinking about this issue about, is Kingpin and Charlie Cox's Daredevil, Matt Murdock, the exact same ones from the Netflix series? Do Charlie Cox's new statements enforce that opinion, change your opinion? How do you see it?
I went into this, especially with Vincent D'Onofrio's comments, being like, oh yeah, of course, it's the same character. They're all the same characters. And this statement is such a wishy-washy statement that means nothing. Of just, well, maybe, possibly, perhaps. No, there's nothing said here that makes me change my mind on anything. Charlie Cox has said nothing concrete about whether or not his character is going to be the same or different. We just know that time has passed, which, like, yeah, it moves in a linear fashion usually. We get it, Charlie. I think that it would make sense to change him up. I think it would make sense to give him maybe a little more of the kind of super in his superhero, right? And give him a few more fantastical bits to mesh into the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now.
Which is what they kind of already did with Kingpin.
And I think maybe it allows us to perhaps right a few wrongs from season 3 of Daredevil and see kind of what we liked, what we didn't. But like Rob was saying, we have to be all in on that conversation then. We have to know what's coming along with us, what's canon, what isn't, what is Daredevil still. But yeah, I just don't think there's that much going on in this statement because, like most things when it comes to the MCU, we got to be vague as hell. Can't let
Again,
anything
to
slip.
me, the big part was when he himself brings up alternate realities. It's Daredevil, but it's not quite, you know. But the one thing I would say is if, and this is a big if, this is a massive, massive if it is a different version of Charlie Cox and Daredevil, much like Jay Jonas is a different version of Jay Jonah, it offers them a lot of upside. Because on the one hand, you can bring over everything people loved about the Netflix Daredevil, but at the same time, because it's not technically the exact same one, you can change whatever you want about it. You can say this one hasn't met Elektra yet.
Right.
If Kevin Feige's got his own, because we all know Kevin Feige's already kind of connected to the Electric movie, but if Kevin Feige's got his own idea about what an Elektra could be, he could tell a totally new story of this Matt Murdock meeting Kevin Feige's version of Elektra. So you could, but if people love Foggy, they can bring over Foggy in the same one they had.
Yeah.
If they like, what's the character's name? Karen?
Karen Page.
Karen Page. If people love Karen, they want to, we can bring over that Karen. We can bring
Just
over.
no heroin.
Yes, please, not another heroin thing. You can bring that all over, but it's not technically the same. So we can change also. So it's almost like a having your cake and eating it too sort of scenario.
And it's also, if it is the same, then where are the rest of the Defenders? You know,
Right,
and
yeah.
that's why there's all these other questions, and I think that the MCU needs.
And why weren't they involved in the events of Endgame? And why? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you need to answer these questions. By the way, these are questions the MCU has set up for itself. Like they
Absolutely.
it's
well pointed out.
You know, it's not like we're if they weren't so tight on their own continuity with this one long story being told, then we wouldn't care. And if they're going to use the multiverse as their excuse, that's fine too. Just tell us. I think that they have to, because otherwise it's going to get to the point where, you know, we're all continuity pornographers. We all want to know what's happening in our stories and make sure that canon is adhered to, because when it isn't, things start to fall apart. And that's one of the great appeals of the MCU, is that they've had such a tight continuity, and that's kind of what makes it fun. At least for me, I've enjoyed that, and I want to know. And they're going to be doing other things, like if they go into Secret Invasion, maybe Daredevil's a Skrull. You know, who knows? I don't know.
By the way, Xavier Phoenix in the live chat brings up something that I really, really like. So if, and again, this is a huge philosophical, theoretical if this is a different alternate reality version of Matt Murdock, one of the exciting things for me, as brought up by Xavier Phoenix X there, is that you could introduce a new Stick. Now, Stick in the TV series, I forget the actor's name, but he's from Backdraft.
Yeah, Scott.
He was also the captain
why am I
of the
drawing a blank?
American submarine in Hunt for Red October.
Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn, thank you. He was great in Hunt for Red October.
He was great.
And he was also great in
Jonesy.
If You Go, I Go. He was so great in Backdraft. But you could bring in a new Stick. And I love the idea of that, because I love that character, and it opens up a world of possibilities of different actors you could have come in and maybe play Stick to go along. But whatever. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about these comments from Charlie Cox? Are you kind of on the boat right now that, yeah, this is the exact same Kingpin and the exact same Daredevil that were in the Netflix series? The Netflix series is complete continuity with what the MCU is now. Are you kind of like me that you think it's going to be a little bit of both? Like it's actually not the same version, even though there's going to be tons of similarities. Maybe you have a third option. I don't know. Whatever you guys are thinking right now, jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts as we wait for Kevin Feige to definitively answer this. Hey guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, the good folks at Manscaped. You know, I was in the shower the other day and I looked down and I thought, my goodness, the boys look fantastic. Dr. Jack Hammer, the amazing Mr. Fantastical, have never looked or felt better, and that is in part due to our friends at Manscaped. Because our friends at Manscaped are the global leaders in below-the-waist hygiene and are turning men's shower dreams into their favorite routine with the all-new Ultra Premium Collection. This all-in-one hygiene skin and hair bundle is designed to upgrade the everyday man's shower routine from head to toe. Your skin, hair, and balls deserve the best, my friends. You start off using the cologne-infused ultra-premium body wash with aloe vera and sea salt to keep your skin feeling clean and moisturized all day. Then boom, it's time to take care of your hair. Simply apply the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner that cleanses and nourishes your hair all in one step. Then once you dry yourself off and hop out of the shower, it's time to protect yourself from body odor by applying the Manscaped aluminum-free deodorant. And do you have tattoos or any dry skin? A lot of us do. It's time to hit your skin with the hydrating body moisturizer spray. Cap it all off by applying some Manscaped lip balm. And then last but not least, we're moving on to the Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer to clean off any unwanted body hair. So guys, get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea, that's C-A-M-P-E-A, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea at manscaped.com.